You know, I think one of the best experiences in gaming is picking up a game you've never played before and falling so madly in love with it to the point you just can't stop thinking about it. That's actually been happening a lot to me lately, from Trails FC to Altair Ryza to Final Fantasy XVI and even Armored Core. But honestly, none of them have had the kind of impact on me that one game in particular has. And that game is Sea of Stars. I had gotten it off PS Plus for free expecting a good time as I had been kind of hyped for it. But I didn't expect to fall in love with it as much as I did. But why? What made me love this game so much? Well, how about we get into that here and now. Gonna start off with what I think my favorite part of the game was, and that's its art style. I'm a massive fan of pixel art style in video games. Yeah, 3D graphics are nice and everything, but nothing hits me quite like a good 2D HD pixel style game. And Sea of Stars is my personal favorite of these so far. I can't tell you how many times I just stopped what I was doing just to stare at the game's set pieces or character models. Watching the blades of grass move, or looking at the water shimmering just captivated me. What more could I have said about any time I was there other than wow? And that gorgeous art style transfers over to the combat, where both the monster designs and attack animations look top notch, without having to rely on things like particle effects exploding on the screen in an annoying fashion like other games seem to think they need. This was actually a complaint I had about Octopath, a fun game I do need to go back to and beat one day, but the particle effects that kept popping on the screen were really fucking annoying. So I'm glad to see Sea of Stars chose to ignore that. And since we're on the topic of combat, how about we get into Sea of Stars gameplay? It's honestly fantastic. At first I assumed it was just going to be a simple yet enjoyable turn-based combat system, but I was blown away with how much fun I ended up having with it. The combat feels like a massive love letter to RPGs of the 90s and early 2000s. The attack option has button prompts similar to likes of Mario RPG or Final Fantasy VIII, where hitting a button during the attack animation deals more damage, which also travels over to defending, as timing said button press right when you're about to get hit can allow you to minimize damage from the enemy's advances. A concept I adore as it gives you more of a reason to focus during battle. This button prompt implementation also flows into skill usage pretty much seamlessly, and even turns a couple special attacks like Moonerang into pseudo minigames. It adds both layers of focus and just pure fun into the gameplay, alongside making the combat much more memorable in my eyes. Adding on to this is the combo system, which by filling up a gauge located on the bottom half of the screen, you gain access to special combo attacks that are performed by utilizing specific characters in your party, hence the name combo attacks. And these come in a wide variety of styles, from a singular focus attack, to hitting everyone on the field, to even healing the party, along with some beautiful looking animations to boot. These combo attacks are obtained through both story progression or exploration of the world, which is a great way to incentivize exploration in the first place. And you're going to need those combo attacks because, well, this game can be surprisingly challenging. And I mean that in a good way. Several turn-based RPGs, even ones I adore, have this kind of issue. Like I loved stuff like Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but the amount of attacks you get in that game can make several enemies complete pushovers. Thankfully, Sea of Stars doesn't have that. There's not any real cheesing in this game. If you want to feel powerful, you gotta earn it through strategy and planning. Figuring out what to launch next, carefully planning out lock breaking to keep enemies from using super attacks, mastering enemy weaknesses, which is way more satisfying than just using whatever superpower attack to clean house. And before you ask, yes, it does have a battle instant swap mechanic that makes it top tier combat in my eyes. How did you know? You all know I'm a shill for that. But in all honesty, it's nice to play a turn-based game that doesn't just let you have instant enemy wipeouts. Everything that can severely damage the entire enemy horde feels so much more satisfying due to having to fill gauges and actually earn them in order to use them. We've spent a lot longer in combat than I expected, huh? Well, how about we get to the other part of the gameplay, and that's the exploration and dungeons, both of which are fantastic. My favorite of the two is without a doubt the dungeons. I love the exploration aspects, especially when actually going off the beaten path rewards you with more enemies to fight, or a new scroll for combo attacks. But the dungeons were more of a standout to me, not only for just how good they looked from a style standpoint, but also for the fact that the game actually had puzzles in them. Puzzles themselves weren't anything special, if I'm being honest, They were mostly pretty basic, but I was just happy that they were there. So many RPGs nowadays have little to no puzzle elements in their dungeons that even seeing them at all in Sea of Stars was a massive win for me. And with just how successful Sea of Stars has been, I'm hoping that more games take this as advice for their future titles. I do kind of wish these dungeons were a little longer, but I also think that getting through them this fast means the puzzles can't get too boring. And last but not least is, of course, our wonderful cast of characters. I love pretty much every single one. I will admit some are definitely better than others, but I don't think any of them are in the bad territory. The two standouts are the mysterious assassin Sarai, who appears like this cold, stoic badass, but as the story goes on, comes across more like a lovable dork than anything. The best moments with her is when she finally decides to reveal her true identity to the group, and instead of being shocked that they just kind of all just shrug and admit to her that they knew already, and she's just left kind of dumbfounded. Or when they need to cross a large body of water, and just as she's about to reveal some crazy super move, girl just cuts her off with another solution, and she just gets dejected because she didn't get the show off. It's so fun. It makes me so happy they didn't make her a cold badass instead. And now we're on to Garl, who is probably my favorite character without a doubt. I always like characters who are balls of positivity and kindness, probably to being a jaded, cynical douche myself.
Hacky frame.
Why are you so fucking negative all the time?
What? I don't, nope, what?
And so I really liked Garl for filling that positive role. Plus it also helps that as the story goes on, he becomes one of the most caring comrades you could have in the party. But what made him my absolute favorite more than anything else was his incredible willpower and resolve. And to explain that, I'm going to have to enter spoiler territory. So skip to here if you don't want any. We good? Okay then. Towards the end of the game, Garl gets hit with a powerful magic attack that is unable to be healed. He's told by Reshin that even with the extra time he's been given, he's not going to survive. But when Garl hears this, he doesn't care, and instead chooses to focus on using his last few moments to help the people he loves. He doesn't fear his looming death. He chooses instead to dedicate his remaining life to being with his friends and giving them a fighting chance against the Flenchmancer and his army. I remember breaking down in tears at this and decided that Garl is my absolute favorite then and there. Sorry, I just wanted to gush about my favorite moment for a minute, and that's it. Those are all the things I love about this game. Now, let's move on to the cons. Alright, let's dive into this game's biggest issue, and that of course is its story. Now before I talk more about it, I want to state the basis of the story is fine. Destined warriors coming together with a plucky cast to defeat the big bad. And I've got no problems with that. What I do have a problem with is the twist reveals that happen in the game. So in order to explain this section, I'm going to have to delve into spoilers again. So to skip those, go to this section right here. Alright, so we good? Alright then. So right when you're at the cusp of finally destroying the Dweller of Strife, it's revealed that your mentors end up betraying you to aid the villain group. And while I admit I wasn't expecting them to betray you, as I thought it was going to end up being the Elder, their motivations for aiding the villain group are some of the worst I've ever seen. It's revealed in a flashback that your mentors used to be plucky and excited to become Solstice Warriors. But then, it's shown that their fellow warriors were killed by the Dweller of Woe, and they were both deeply upset at that, and the fact that their master didn't show much sadness over it. So for some stupid reason, their response to this is to help the villains bring this world to an end. And when this happened, you can bet I was not impressed. They tried to convince you with this argument of, oh well, how long till another Dweller shows up and repeats this cycle? Bullshit. Even though there's barely ever explained throughout the time up till then, even afterwards it's barely brought up, so it comes across as incredibly short-sighted. It actually reminds me of Pokemon Sword and Shield, where Chairman Rose wants to release Eternius, a Pokemon capable of wiping out everything, in order to harness its power to help solve Galar's energy problem, which in truth is not a bad reason on paper, but it falls to pieces when it's stated they won't have this problem for 1,000 years. Meaning unless there's some crazy secret scene where it's revealed Rose is an immortal being, there's literally no reason to be worried about this. It kills any sort of understanding you could have for their motives and makes them look like total idiots. And that's basically what Evelyn and her brother are reduced to. just idiots who seem like they barely thought any of this through. There were also other issues as well. Another good example is the twist that Sorey is from the Sea of Stars and part robot. And while this one is nowhere near as anger-inducing as the mentors joining the villain group, it still just kind of feels unnecessary. Like they wanted to give more depth to Sorey when she honestly just had enough to her. Was it really going to hurt the story if she was just a ninja pirate captain and not a half robot thing? They also try to flesh out the Fleshmancer by tying him to one of your party members, and at first I was interested in this concept, to the point you get a flashback showcasing their strong bond and even making you think there was some part of him you could save. Only for the game to just go, nah, just kidding, and point out how he's always basically been a piece of shit, killing any interest in him having any sort of character arc. You can't just show a scene where he was once good and shoot yourself in the foot like 2 hours later. It comes across as really messy, and it makes it seem like you only added in twists for the sake of twists. Also, if you're wondering why I've just been calling them the villain group, it's because that's pretty much all I can call them. They have little to nothing else to remember them by. Their boss fights are cool, but that's pretty much it. They didn't even have a name for their group, so I'm gonna just call them the Jerry Squad. What do you call them? Leave a comment down below and maybe hit that sub button. Sorry for that stupid joke, but that's all I can really contribute to the Jerry Squad. They're just followers of the Fleshmancer and that's it. That's pretty much the end of it. Well, other than one more thing. And I wanted to save it till the end because not only is it massive spoilers for the post game and its true ending, it's also a topic I brought up in another video, so if you don't want said spoilers, skip to the timestamp here. Okay, we good? Let's go. Once you beat the main story of Sea of Stars, a strange rock formation lines up in the Moorlands. Then, when you make every single rock light up through the various side quests they offer you, you gain the ability to go back in time in order to save Garth from not dying. Okay, look, as much as I want to tear into this, as much as I did for Dragon Quest XI, I'm gonna say this. The way it is handled in Sea of Stars is nowhere as insulting as it was in Dragon Quest XI. It doesn't erase any character development, nor does it invalidate any of the struggles the cast went through. You also get to see how happy everyone was that Gar was saved, instead of a silent protagonist looking at her normally. It also leads to unlocking the true final boss. That I think is handled far better than something like Kalasmos. But no matter how much praise I give it for handling its time travel aspects better than 11, I will never be a fan of time travel being randomly utilized to give characters a get out of jail free card. Even more so considering just how amazingly handled Garl's death was in the main story. That's pretty much it. Let's move on to my final thoughts. Well, despite some missteps in its storytelling department, Sea of Stars is a phenomenal title that any fan of RPGs should play. My final rating for this game is a very, very satisfied 9 out of 10. Go and play it right now. It's basically free on PS Plus and Xbox Game Pass, so you're not really losing out on much even if you don't like it. And that's all she wrote. Thank you all so much for watching. I said it before as a joke, but if you did, like and comment and sub below and all that jazz if you liked the video. I want to say again, thanks a million for watching. That's all for now. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all next week for more JRPG content.